Welcome to People Like You. Hundreds of thousands of women and children are sold each year into human trafficking. And some believe that human trafficking is quickly becoming the #1 crime in the Bay Area. Today's guest, Vanessa Scott, is the executive director of Love Never Fails, a nonprofit organization dedicated to the rehabilitation, education, and protection of youth involved or at risk of becoming involved in domestic sex trafficking. Vanessa will talk about how we can help prevent human trafficking in our own communities and help restore those who are working to overcome their experience. So please don't go away.
In 2010, one of my 15-year-olds was actually assaulted in Hayward and sold in Oakland.
Welcome back. Today's guest, Vanessa Scott, is the executive director of Love Never Fails. Tell us about that organization.
Yes, well, we've been in place for about 2 years. We were formed in December 2011, and actually out of some very difficult circumstances. I've been a dance teacher, a volunteer dance teacher for the last, I'd say 10 or 11 years, actually out of Faith Fellowship Foursquare Church in San Leandro. I've been doing that on a voluntary basis with about hundreds of children, but mostly focused on young ladies between the ages of 3 and 25. And in 2010, one of my 15-year-olds was actually assaulted in Hayward and sold in Oakland, in LA, in Vallejo, throughout California.
So she just suddenly disappeared?
She disappeared. And when I actually learned that what had happened to her when one of my sisters at church had found her on the street walking barefoot. She was dressed in hardly any clothing, and she wanted help, and so she came back to Faith Fellowship, and she came over and we had something to drink, and we sat down, and she began to tell me what was happening with her. And it was a really challenging time because it just was surreal, because she was describing how she had been shot at, how she had been threatened, how she had been kept from eating.
Why did she not run?
Well, and that's a question that a lot of people ask. There's actually something very interesting that happens to people that are pulled in, and especially young people that are pulled into exploitative type of situations, and that is, it's called the Stockholm Syndrome, or trauma bonding. So oftentimes what we find is the exploiter, the abuser, will present himself or herself as someone who loves the person, someone who is perhaps a boyfriend, a best friend, and finds needs, finds vulnerabilities in the child, and then preys upon them. Okay. So for a certain period of time, maybe 30 days, maybe 60 days, they're grooming them. They're telling them things that they want to hear. They're asking them questions, very much like you would find in an incest situation or a molestation situation. They prey upon the vulnerabilities that are shared. They offer gifts. They offer special time that the child isn't getting elsewhere oftentimes. And then they turn that relationship into a sexual relationship. And either through coercion or threats or bodily harm, they force the child or the young woman or the young man, and this does happen to young men as well, they force them into a life of exploitation and modern-day slavery.
Wow. Okay, and so Love Never Fails came out of this experience with this young lady.
Yes.
Because you were able to help her.
Yes, actually. So we looked for her for over a year. Wow. I drove up and down all of the street. I became very familiar with what's called a track, and that is a place where young people, where people are being sold and for sex. And so I began to go and drive throughout Oakland, throughout San Leandro and Hayward and Vallejo and all of the different places that she might have been sold, and looked for her. Unfortunately, I never actually found her on the street until that one day. Yes. But what is so sort of mind-boggling is this is not, obviously, children cannot decide You know, they cannot decide to be a prostitute. They cannot
Right.
decide. So they're considered to be exploited, and that's good. But some of the challenges with that are that they can't be arrested either. And that's a positive thing because you don't want a victim being treated like a criminal. But at the same time, in the case of many of these children, they're placed back into the homes. Maybe they ran away and they're placed back into a home that sort of led them into a predator's hands to begin with. Or they're placed back without the services that they need, the counseling that they need to get rehabilitated.
Right. So in some cases, they might not even understand that they need rehabilitation.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Human trafficking. Explain exactly what that means.
Yeah. So the definition of it is pretty simple. It's the use of coercion, threats, bodily harm to sell someone for sex against their will.
Okay. And in this particular situation with this young lady, it happened so close to home, an
Yes.
area that you wouldn't actually expect it to happen.
Right.
But how did you get through to her?
Well, you know, it's a long process, and I'm still working with her today. And this is something that we're doing not just with her now, right? Because we saw that when I went out there and I drove down those tracks, there wasn't just my student there. There were many
young
underage, and you know, people like to think that if they're 18 or 19, oh, they chose to be there, but they didn't just end up there at 18 or 19. They were a 12
Right.
or 14-year-old.
And we want to know more about that and how this young lady is doing today when
Yeah.
we return. And so more with Vanessa when we come back. Don't go away.
The average age of a person that is exploited in the U.S., and these are U.S. citizens, is 12 to 14. That's according to the DOJ.
We're back with Vanessa Scott, founder of Love Never Fails, and I am so impressed with in 2 years that you have worked with hundreds of young people.
Yes.
Even to this point.
Yes.
And the organization is growing, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But first of all, the young lady,
Yeah,
is she in a better place?
absolutely, absolutely. And I just ask that everyone would just lift her up, continue to pray for her.
And she's out of the lifestyle?
Yes, she is.
Okay. And does not plan to go back?
And doesn't plan to go back.
Okay. This can happen in any of our communities. It's pretty rampant here in the Bay Area. Can you talk
Absolutely.
about that?
Yeah, so what we find, and the DOJ has some statistics to this effect. So first of all, the average age of a person that is exploited in the U.S., and these are U.S. citizens, is 12 to 14. That's according to the DOJ. We also know that there's several precursors to being very vulnerable to being exploited, and that would be to have been abused. 65 to 95% of those that have been exploited were abused as children, and that's not just sexual abuse. And I think that's really important to mention.
And the way you speak of this as well is these are individuals that that is their job, to find more young people to bring into the program.
Absolutely. Yeah, so thinking about exploiters, and one interesting statistic is that actually 88% of people who exploit people were actually abused as children as well. So we find that a lot of the exploiters come from their own troubling backgrounds. They themselves have been recruited based on the same circumstance that the young ladies and the young men that are being sold have been recruited. And there are people that are grooming them as well on how to prey upon vulnerable young ladies, vulnerable young men, maybe people that are questioning their sexuality, people that are isolated because of that, people who are maybe overweight, maybe don't have parents at home that are telling them that they're loved. And so they find those vulnerabilities and they meet the need for a time. And the term is actually, it's a Romeo pimping is actually what it's called. And so it's presenting yourself as a love interest and then turning that relationship into one of exploitation.
And why do these girls not understand it? Because they've gotten to a point where they've been brainwashed?
Absolutely, that's why they don't leave. So they come in thinking that this is their boyfriend, this is someone who loves me, that's going to be there for me, and then the rug is pulled out from under them. Oftentimes, I mean, you can imagine, you thought this was a great guy, and now he's not, and you're embarrassed because maybe you fought with your parents about him. You said he's a good guy, they didn't think he was, and so there's shame. I don't want to call and say what just happened to me. I don't want to tell anybody because my parents are going to think I'm stupid. And then there's the fear. Maybe he knows where you live. Maybe he threatens, I'm going to hurt your brother or your sister or your parents if you tell. All of those things are in play that keep the person caught in the circle of slavery.
And this can happen to anyone.
It can happen to anyone.
You mentioned areas in Oakland, but you also said San Jose.
Absolutely. So San Jose, we just came from Stockton, Modesto, Sacramento, Vallejo, San Francisco. All of these are cities that we actually go to. We do street outreach in each of these cities on a monthly basis, and we find that people are being sold in broad daylight, young girls, in every weekend, and online. Thousands of online ads of young underage children that are being sold in all of these cities, and the ads post where I'm located. So they're located in Dublin, they're located in Pleasanton, all of the places that you would expect that it's not happening.
And 12 years old.
12 to 14.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's rather amazing because they are missing persons, but they can't be picked up.
Well,
please.
Well, it's kind of a challenge because some of them are missing. Some are being exploited while they're at home with their families, and families don't know, especially in the beginning stages. Families may think, oh, well, this is just a boyfriend that's lavishing my daughter with lots of gifts or helping me pay some bills. But over time, it becomes clear they're actually selling the daughter.
You have, your organization, Love Never Fails, has actually helped find young women and bring them home.
Absolutely, yes. So we have a team, a security team, that we can go to should a person want to find their missing child, their missing loved one. We have a team of private investigators that have offered their time for free to try to locate children and missing women as well. We actually have one case of a young man as well. And so far we've been able to locate 19 women and children.
And get them off the streets.
Yes.
And change their behavior, change their thought pattern.
Yes.
Through Love Never Fails?
Yes, through Love Never Fails.
What kind of program, well, we'll talk about that after the break, because I want to hear more about what kind of program you go through.
Sure.
In order to help these young people.
Yeah.
But you are also working within Bay Area churches.
Yes.
Because this is a new thing for them.
Absolutely. So we find that I could say this about myself. I had no idea how prolific the problem was. And here it just happened right in my own church home. When I share that with other churches, and I say to them, there's no rhyme or reason. This is happening to all of our kids, and we need to cover them and protect them. They invite me to come in. They invite me to come in and speak. I've spoken at several churches, and then when we go out and do our street outreach, we welcome all of our variety of churches to come and visit with us and go and walk the streets with us and pray over people.
That's great. Well, I want to hear more about that after the break, and the fact that there are signs. There are signs that we can look for.
Absolutely.
In these young people, so that we can actually try to help them before
Absolutely.
they go into that area.
Yeah.
So more with Vanessa when we return. So don't go away.
We've been invited in by Oakland Unified School District, if you can believe that, mandated to teach all 7th graders about human trafficking this year.
Welcome back, and I was really interested to find that Love Never Fails has been invited into the school program, local schools.
Yes, it's very exciting. So the name of our program is Love Don't Hurt, It is a middle school and high school abuse prevention and sex trafficking awareness program. And it's been reviewed by the California Department of Education and satisfies health education standards. We've been invited in by Oakland Unified School District, if you can believe that, mandated to teach all 7th graders about human trafficking this year. And we've been in discussion with San Francisco Unified School District and a variety of other schools. So we're really excited about that. That is really the best way to do the prevention, right, is to get at it ahead of time.
Ahead of time.
Yes.
And then you also have a mentor program.
Yes, yes. So it's called Mentors for Positive Change. And so as we find people, like we talked about earlier, people that we want to come out of the life, people that want to start working, people that just need a support system. We found that having a mentor is a matter of life or death, you know. And these are not clinical people. These are not, you know, these are folks that have a heart. They have a heart and they're committed. And so we've gone into a variety of different churches and organizations and made a plea, will you become a mentor, take our training, and sow into a life.
And you have a lot of churches, and we talked earlier before the show about many of the churches we're very familiar with who are now involved in this program, and they see the need for it.
Absolutely, yeah.
We have a video. You want to describe that a little bit?
Yeah.
That we want to show?
Yeah, so the video is just really making a plea to anyone who has a heart for this issue and these young people, and it's for boys and for girls. We want to mentor young men that are being recruited to being exploiters. Let's get to them before they get recruited. Do you know that someone who exploits will exploit between 2 and 31 women in their lifetime? If you can actually sow into a young man that's at risk, you can not only prevent his life from being ruined, but prevent him from recruiting and exploiting 2 to 31 women.
So watch this video with us.
Fear is taking me to a place I should.
According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, as many as 2/3 of the people in treatment for drug abuse reported being abused or neglected as children. You may be overwhelmed by the thought of mentoring because of your own personal struggles.
So ignorant! No! Oh, you are!
You hope I die?
Yep, don't raise me dead. Right now, don't hit me again, I'll kill you!
You already practically did.
I'm dead! Don't you ever touch me again!
But mentoring is not about fixing someone or being a perfect role model. All that is required is time and genuine interest.
When I was young, I was a troubled teen, and I would have given anything to have a organization like this, someone that I could talk to, someone that would listen to me and help me through some of the troubles I was going through. They didn't have anything like that, and I remember making a vow to myself that I would never forget what it was like to be a teenager, and I never have. And now I get to talk with my mentee, and I get to listen to her, and I get to impact somebody else's life. I'm hoping that I'm doing that, and I'm blessed. I'm crazy about her. I've gotten to know her. She's just adorable. Anybody that wants to get involved, I really encourage them to. It'll change your life.
Mentors for Positive Change has impacted my life in the areas of having a teenage daughter, 2 of them actually. My daughter had problems a little over a year ago with the pressures of peers and being from a broken home and other things that bothered her that were tempting her to do things and hang out with the wrong people and making her feel alone and a disappointment. And with having Mentors for Positive Change and having Joni come into our lives and Vanessa, it's made an absolute difference. My daughter now, we did an intervention at my home. My daughter now has changed her life, has changed her goals, has changed, you know, what she's doing. She has since then quit using any substances. And just having the mentor come to the house and take time with my daughter, even if it's just to sit with my daughter while she hangs out and watches TV or go out and get ice cream. Either way, my daughter always looks forward to it.
It's somebody I can talk to because my past wasn't so great, and I've done a lot of things that I regret now, but I have somebody to talk to who helps me get past all those things, who pushes me towards success and who will help me and give me advice. It's a lot of things that you like to do, and you just talk about your life and everything, and she gives me advice, she helps me through things, and yeah.
The spark is now a flame, the fire that you breathe inside of me. Now there is no doubt, there will be some knocking down and dragging out. You build me up and I'm forever changed. If I should fall and I'll just call your name, superhero. Save my life tonight.
Take the first step today towards becoming a mentor for positive change. Time and genuine interest can change the course of a young person's life.
Wow. How can someone find out more about the mentorship program or about Love Never Fails?
So best place to start is our website, which is www.loveneverfailsus.com.
And what if somebody feels that they know someone who is involved in human trafficking? What should they do?
Yeah, so certainly get someone who's readily available, a pastor, a teacher, a counselor that is trustworthy, a family member to help immediately. And then, of course, give us a call. All of our contact information is on our website. And then another thing that we do when we go out on street outreach is we actually hand out these bracelets. And the bracelets have our website on them, and they also have our phone number on the inside. And so that's a great way to also, maybe a friend at school is having this problem. Maybe we give them a bracelet like this.
Because they can keep that and phone you at any time and you'll come get them.
That's right.
Wow. What else would you like anyone to know before we go?
I just want to just ask for prayers. Really lift up the young people that I think our young people are really challenged right now. There's so much coming at them. Everything has become so fast. And there's so much media that has sexualized them, that has told them that that's the only worth that they bring into this world. And I want them to sort of just know that that's not true, that's a lie, and that they're precious, and that we love them and we want them to be successful.
And they have a future ahead of them.
Yes.
They just wait.
Yes.
Well, thanks for being with us today. For more information about Love Never Fails and to learn more about the resources available to help stop human trafficking in your community, visit www.loveneverfailsus.com or go to KTLN.TV. Remember that KTLN is a donor-supported ministry, and we're thankful for the part you play in keeping this ministry ongoing. Thanks for being with us, and join us again next week.